Welcome to all of you out there in cyberspace as we continue our journey from the revolution to civil war. In 1 week or 1 month. But now we got 1 week to go from. No, that's right. We are revolution to the civil war in 1 week. We talked about all this yesterday.
Hey.
From the Federalists, we're going to turn things over to the Anti-Federalists today. If you're a Federalist, think about what that word means. It's kind of synonymous with national government. It means that you favor stronger control from the national government. We have a system called federalism in our republic, and at the beginning of the country, they had to figure out how much power does the Constitution give the central government, and if it doesn't give the central government that power, who has that power? Is it a state issue? These are things that were in our infancy here in the 1790s. It looks good on paper. This is the plan. How's it going to be carried out? So you've got Federalist and Anti-Federalism. Yesterday we focused on Washington and Adams and the Federalists. And today we're going to talk about how the Federalist influence started to decline in the mid-1790s, and then the Jeffersonians are going to take over. Those Anti-Federalists. Whoa, time out. Way too much power coming from Philadelphia at that time. Way too much power coming from the national representatives. Remember, if I'm from Virginia, I'm a Virginian. If I'm from Pennsylvania, I'm a Pennsylvanian. I'm a New Yorker first. Well, the election of 1796 was very interesting for this reason. This is before the 12th Amendment. The 12th Amendment changed national elections to the way we do them now. When we voted, Mrs. Tosh and I, last year, on the ballot, there was one box, Trump, Pence, right? And when you voted for Trump, you were voting for Pence as vice president. Before the 12th Amendment, they would all be on the ballot separately. And whoever got the most votes would be president, and whoever got second would be vice president. Well, look what happened. You had Adams as president, who barely defeated Jefferson. They're different. Adams is a Federalist, Jefferson's an Anti-Federalist. But they're vice president, they're president, vice president.
Second year students, this message is for the golf team. Golf practice for today has been canceled, but you are being encouraged to go to the Flying V and play 9 holes of golf or to a driving range on your own. So please make an effort to go ahead and practice today, but regular golf practice has been canceled. Thank you.
Let me get this straight. If it's not raining, you're on the golf team, you get to go to Flying V and just play golf for free.
Nope.
Is that true?
No. If the owner's there, he does not like to be nice. He makes you pay like full price, but all of his employees let us in for free. So it's a little bit of a mix.
Very interesting.
I once went without money because they always let me in.
Yeah.
And he was like, give him money.
Seriously.
Yeah. He was a jerk about it.
What a punk.
I put him in his place.
All right. You see what happened there? Kind of strange, right?
Yes.
Yeah. Imagine if you had Trump Harris. What a mix that would be.
That would be like, I think the country.
That would be great. That would be
I know, just
That would be good theater.
Yeah.
So, listen, this idea of partisanship that Washington detested, it's almost inevitable, right? And actually, as great as I think Washington was, And I'm not saying that the two-party system we have is perfect, by no means it's not, right? But one-party system is worse. Like, you understand what I'm saying? Like, maybe if we had 3 or 4, that'd be better, but one-party rule would be worse. Now you've really centralized the power, right? At least if Republicans and Democrats are fighting against each other, how about this? The more they fight against each other, maybe the less they get done. Think about it. The less the government gets done, is that a bad thing? You see what I'm saying? So it's not necessarily bad. I mean, we don't like it because we like peace, right? We like peace and harmony. We don't want all the division and fighting and rancor. But for free people, that friction, some friction, is necessary. Or those people in power, because of human nature, we are fallen, depraved people. They're going to try to get more power. Because power corrupts, and absolute power corrupts.
Absolutely.
Absolutely. All pigs are equal. Some pigs are more equal than others. The Adams administration, well, real quick, here's the Adams administration in one line or two. So he's involved in this quasi, you ever heard that word before? Quasi-war, like, it's kind of like halfway. It's not like a Cold War that we experienced in America when I was your age between the Soviet Union and America, where they were constantly not fighting, but a battle of ideas, communism and freedom, and building up arms, but never really going to fight each other with those. That was a Cold War, like cold shoulder, like I don't like you. This was more like, hey, we're about to go to war with France. And it's called the XYZ affair. Again, you got to do everything fast. But this is one of the highlights or lowlights of Adams' administration is in the diplomatic relations going on to avoid war, we didn't want to release the names of the French diplomats who were kind of friendly towards Americans because that could mean problems for them, right? So instead of calling them by name, the Americans released them as W, X, Y, and Z. There was 4 of them. So why is it not called the WXYZ affair? I guess it doesn't have the same ring to it. XYZ affair. Why is it named that? Because they didn't want to give their real names. So they called this guy X, that guy Y, and the other guy Z to hide their identities. But anyway, the big deal was it averted us going to war with France. The U.S. Navy is established under the Adams administration. And another thing of note, Adams makes peace. This is in the late 1700s. There is a person in Europe, a French leader in Europe that is rising and trying to control all of Europe. Way before Hitler, there was a man named Napoleon Bonaparte. You see pictures of him? Usually standing there with his hand and maybe suffered from little man syndrome, and he was like 5 foot. Derek, you're much bigger than I was. Okay, how tall are you?
You have a little man syndrome.
Sure. He's looking at me like he's seething because I said little man syndrome. Do you know I was not 5 foot until freshman year? So I'm a sophomore. I was about 5'1", 5'2".
Derek's like 4'8".
I don't like this topic. I like 5 foot.
All right. He was just looking at me like,
I'm 6 foot.
why is he looking at me? Because you're looking at me.
Yeah.
All right. The Alien and Sedition Acts. They were passed to punish French-friendly Republicans. Remember, at this point, we're calling them Republicans. They're Democrat Republicans. They are anti-federalists. And those acts are going to be overturned shortly after this, a couple years later, because of their unconstitutionality, which we'll get to in a second. Because again, we're a country that has just been born. How's this going to work? We said yesterday, I think, that the third branch of government, the judicial branch, didn't even have a home. Oh, that's right. We have a Supreme Court. Let's see, where are we gonna put them? They're headquartered in the basement of the Capitol. We know them now as a pretty powerful branch of government. Right? I mean, Supreme Court is seemingly, there's a lot of people that fear that we're kind of living under a tyranny of the court. Like, they shouldn't be that powerful. But evidently at the beginning, they weren't even seen as co-equals branches of government to the executive and the legislative. Goes fast. Then we get to the election of 1800. If you thought the election of 1796 was strange, which it was, we've got another strange election coming up 4 years later. So see how history repeats itself. We think we're living in strange days when it comes to elections and stuff and such, and division, but there's nothing new under the sun. A wise man once said that. Solomon himself. Adams, during his administration, is when the capital moves to Washington. Actually, in the summer of 1800. Whoops. Again, the election is supposed to be John Adams versus Thomas Jefferson. The Federalist, Adams, is running against the Democrat Republicans, Jefferson and Burr. Jefferson and Burr, remember this is before the 12th Amendment, when we changed it. Jefferson and Burr both get 73 electoral votes. It's a tie. What happens? Who was paying attention last year when before the election they were going through all these scenarios? We knew it was going to be a close election. What if it came out a tie? What if Trump Biden came out 269? Who remembers what was going to happen? Anybody? It would be sent to the House of Representatives. So there was some consternation among the Trump supporters, like, wait, if it's a tie and it goes to the House, who's in control of that place? So what was the chances of them voting Trump over Biden with her in charge, right? Well, the Federalists control the House. Are you informing him that Nancy Pelosi's the Speaker of the House?
Just making sure I knew.
He didn't know.
I don't think she would have gotten to decide. It was one vote for state.
Well, oh, that's true, yeah,
It was one vote
but
for
still.
state. It would have turned out Republican.
That's true. Yeah, you're right. Thank you.
Wait, what?
If it goes to the House of Representatives, then even though there was more Democrats in the House, and Speaker of the House is Nancy Pelosi, it was determined that each state would, they were still fighting about it, that each state would get one vote.
That's what it says.
So even though there's more representatives in the House that are Democrat, there's more states that send Republicans. Does that make sense?
I feel that.
What's the largest state in the union? Population-wise, you're right,
Oh.
geographically. So California, if they send 54 representatives to the House, and 34 of them, or 38 of them are Democrat, then and New York sends more Democrats than Republicans, those two large populations are going to send more Democrats into the House of Representatives. However, those are only 2 states out of 50, right? All the other 48 states they also send representatives to the Congress. So even though there's more Democrats in Congress, there's more Republican states represented than Democrats in Congress. Does that make sense? Anyway, in this election, 1800, there's a tie, and it goes to the House, and they can't break the tie after the second vote, or the third vote, or the fourth vote, or the 34th vote. 35 times they try to vote before finally Jefferson wins.
Which guy changed the flag?
Yeah, I don't know. Or how many, maybe a couple changes here and there through that course. So the Federalists have now lost after being the dominant force from the time of Washington's presidency in 1789. They are losing control, have lost control of the executive and legislative branch of government. The anti-federalists are taking control. But before Adams leaves, he does this thing you may have heard last year called pack the court. He appoints a lot of federal judges. Remember, I think yesterday we told you there was 13 district courts and 3 appeals courts. And he packs the courts with his appointments. In other words, hey, I've lost the election. The Congress is also going to the Democrat Republicans. So one way that I'll ensure that the Federalist legacy lives on is by federal judges. And from that comes Chief Justice John Marshall, who becomes Supreme Court Justice in 1801 and serves there for 34 years. So even though there's going to be kind of a political revolution happening, one branch of the government is going to be under the quote-unquote control of a Federalist appointed Judge Marshall. Thank you for saying that. No, seriously. Everybody caught up? Oh, but wait, there's more. Yeah, interesting information here. Political rivals Jefferson and Madison. Wait. I mean say Adams. I'm really confused here. Become friends after retirement, and they both died on the same day. Well, look at the date.
Yeah.
50 years after the Declaration, they both died on the same day. So,
Yeah, the Madison kind of came out left field.
yeah.
They're gonna try to Adams instead of Madison.
We're just trying to figure out. Katie pulls up the cheap.
I guess I have to look.
This is what happened. This group of boys, we all split up, we're trying to find it all. So you go to sleep. Through the floor. So we were sprinting.
I'm so glad.
And so eventually we found an X. It wasn't actually exact, but then you have.
Don't touch my foot. That's disgusting.
All the corners.
Standing up to your
Hey.
Not sure if you just can just exit, right? And here's all the pages. You guys are finally here, find your way to the exit.
Okay, everybody get that change? I inadvertently wrote Madison there, I typed Madison. Jefferson and Adams, these political rivals, strangely died the same day, and I forget which one. One of them, whoever died first, had just gotten the news. I've seen a documentary on this, that the other one died. I want to say Jefferson died first. And then Adams found out about it right before he died.
I think I.
There was some quote that, I mean, I don't know if there was an actual disease, just natural causes. Yeah. Yeah,
Can I answer this, Trish?
sure. Why would that ring?
What?
Why would
Jake
that?
was snapping at me.
That leads us to what's called the Jeffersonian era in American history. They are the anti-federalists. The less government, the better. They're the ones fighting for less control by the central government. Because look, I think we talked about it yesterday. How is this going to work? You have to have some strength in your, well, the reason we have a constitution is because what was the document that was running the country before the Constitution that wasn't strong enough? The what? Well, no, the Declaration was the foundation for the country that the Constitution was built on. But what was the document that was ruling, that was the blueprint for the country right after the war? The Bill of Rights are an addendum, they're an amendment to the Constitution, so they're part of the Constitution. Right after the war, we were living under the blank of blank, Articles of Confederation. And the reason that they convened this constitutional convention happens because these articles weren't working. And the big problem with them was the federal government didn't have enough power. How are you going to take these 13 states that see themselves as sovereign and unite them together unless there's strength in that central government, right? So, okay, now we have a constitution. We think we've given the central government more power. Whoa, time out. We didn't mean that much power. That's what's going on. So the anti-federalists have now taken over. That makes sense?
Yeah.
We needed strength, and this is listen, we're 240 years later, we're still battling this, right? And that's okay. That kind of is like, again, that you need that friction, you need that happening. You need to have people saying, whoa, we got to have some strength in the central government, or else it's going to be chaos. And you need other people saying, whoa, time out. That's you're becoming way too powerful. And in the Bill of Rights, individual liberty. Here's the contention between the national government and the state and local governments. But while that's going on, there's got to be something in place to protect us as individuals, right? It's a beautiful thing, this America you live in, with all its flaws, with all the bad things. In comparison, relative to the world, we're not comparing America to heaven, people. We're comparing America to all the other countries in the world. It's the greatest country ever conceived. The Chief Justice Marshall, that's a repeat, on the court for 34 years. From 1801 to 1835. That is pretty influential. you know, that the way we choose judges, they tend to be older because we want people with experience, people with wisdom. Just like you can't be president till you're 35, but you can be a representative in Congress. You can be a senator when you're 30. We have these age restrictions because, you know, we don't want some young person, you know, I know you think you know it all, but you don't, right? So you want people that have had life experience and wisdom. So we usually have, you know, think about the justices on the court. You know, you don't see 20-year-olds on there. Yeah. Mhm. Now, this is a big deal here. Even as fast as we're going, this bit of information, so when you go to college in a couple of years, you start, maybe even next year, some of you, I don't know if you're doing it already, you're going to start taking CCP classes, right? This is going to come up over and over again because this is a landmark decision. The first really big decision made by our U.S. Supreme Court in 1801. Marbury versus Madison. The idea of judicial review. The court declared a law unconstitutional. The court didn't even have its own building. It was in the basement of the, right? Now the court has become much more significant, and they have said Congress can pass a law, okay, but if there's a suit brought against that law, we have the power to strike that law from the books and declare it unconstitutional. Does that make sense? It's more than just we're a bunch of judges and you come to us and we make a decision. This case laid the foundation for the Supreme Court has the authority to take a law duly passed by the House of Representatives and the Senate, the people's house, and the people the country elected, and we can say it's unconstitutional. That's pretty powerful. In other words, it could theoretically be this. 100% of your parents voted for people in the House that 100% voted for a law. 435 representatives and 100 senators, they had a law and they all voted yes. The Supreme Court, if someone takes it to court and gets to that point, could declare that law constitutional. It's pretty powerful stuff. Yeah.
You know what the law was?
It had to do with Madison's. I do and I don't. I haven't looked at it lately, but it had to do with an appointment to a position by this Marbury guy, and then after the election, he didn't get that appointment, even though he was promised that job. I don't have all the details. Does that make sense? Like one administration says that this is going to be your job. The next administration comes in and says, no. That was part of it. Anyway. The Barbary Pirates, remember them? Have you heard of them? Well, just like there are tech pirates today, in the last year, we've seen, in the last 6 months, we've seen these techno pirates put a halt to our pipeline. Remember that a few months ago? Where they hacked into the pipeline system and gas prices shot up temporarily really high because the gas supply was down. And then they hack into like a meat packing company or something a couple months after that. And what they do is they do this hacking, and then they get a hold of the company and they say, oh, you pay us a ransom and we'll unlock your system. Companies pay the ransom because you got to have your system unlocked, right? Well, what's going to happen if we keep paying the ransom? We're going to keep doing it, right? So pirates, that's kind of how they operate. Nobody really wants to go to war or to lose life. So, okay, well, Jefferson said, no more. We're not paying the ransom. And he sends in the U.S. Marines. And this is where we get the Marine hymn. You want to hear the Marine hymn?
Yeah.
Don't you just love hearing the Marine hymn? From the halls of Montezuma to the Tripoli. That's where this comes from.
I know this. You should put your pencil in.
For the US Marines. So
Oh, Caleb knows it.
there's one for the US Marines. All right, the Louisiana Purchase, certainly you heard of that. It's under the Jefferson administration that America doubles in size. You might not remember how that all came about. Napoleon, the French and the English are always going at it, right? Napoleon is at war with the British. He's trying to become king of Europe, and he needs money. He still has holdings in the New World. He sells that to Jefferson, to America. 15 mil. What would that be today, I wonder? Probably about, I think I did this calculation. At this time, it's probably a little more than every dollar, like a dollar back then would be like $100, or $100 today would be like a dollar back then. So put 2 zeros on the end of that. What do you got? 1.5 billion. Would that be a fair price for all of that territory? To double the size of America in today's dollars, would 1.5 billion be overpriced? No. So even in today's dollars, 15 million, which doesn't seem like a lot for all of that land today, even if you adjusted it to today, still wouldn't be overpriced. But Napoleon needed the money. Of course, you heard of Lewis and Clark. And what was that all about? They were trying to find a waterway to the Pacific. Is there a way to connect the Mississippi all the way to the Pacific Ocean? Well, they didn't find that, but they did great things, right? You've probably seen or read about Lewis and Clark and their expedition and all of the new vegetation that they discovered and animals. I think it was like 140 species that we didn't even know were on the continent. 140 maps. Maybe that was the 140 number. I think the species might be higher than that. So their work was very instrumental in paving the way for continued westward expansion, because what America is starting to figure out is we've got this destiny. It starts with an M. Manifest destiny. It's kind of obvious that we are supposed to occupy this continent from sea to shining sea. And the Louisiana Purchase goes a long way, and Lewis and Clark's expedition goes a long way in getting us there. Here's a big deal that we in Ohio, not just because we're in Ohio, but this Treaty of Greenville was a treaty after a major battle in Ohio called the Battle of Fallen Timbers between the settlers that were moving west, the Americans, and the natives. The victories won by the Americans in Ohio established American dominance in their battles with the Native Americans. And it leads to Ohio becoming the first state in an area called the Northwest Territory. We're the 17th state in the Union. What year? 1803. March 1st, 1803, Ohio becomes a state, the 17th state in the Union. First one in Northwest Territory. Hey, get this. $1.64 an acre. Let's multiply that by 100. 164 bucks an acre. Smile, I'm going to come out there and buy your property. 164 bucks an acre. How many acres you got?
91.
91. I think I'll do it. I think that's good price. So let's say let's round it off to 100. I'm paying 160. So I'm gonna get all of their property for what? 164,000, is that what that would be? That's a pretty good deal. $1.64. Whoa, we're behind second period. Here's the War of 1812 in one slide. It's crazy what we're doing here. But guess what? We could be doing none of this. We could have just said, forget about the beginnings of the country. We could have dove right in after the Civil War, but I just can't do it. Some back then called it Madison's War. What are we doing? We're actually going to poke the bear again. Caleb, do you realize what the odds were against the colonists defeating the British Army in the Revolution? You don't realize that? We talked about that many times. It would be like Columbiana beating Heartland this year in basketball. No, sight, not even close. It would be like East Palestine football beating. Well, you can pick anybody. That couldn't happen. You couldn't take this group of farmers and merchants and form them into this ragtag group of people and beat the most polished army in the world. Well, now we're doing it again. We expect to defeat them again, and this time it seems like we might be less prepared. Except we got old Ironsides, USS Constitution, against the British fleet. Amazing. And we got Oliver Hazard Perry out there, Commodore Oliver Hazard Perry out there leading the Battle of Lake Erie. We have met the enemy and they are ours. We remember that the British did get into Washington, D.C. and burn it down, basically. The White House, Capitol. Well, we also remember Francis Scott Key aboard a ship outside Baltimore, riding the Star-Spangled Banner as Fort McHenry was defended against the British. And we'll pick up there on the. Remember, we're going to get all the way to the Civil War by the end of Friday.
What was the warrior throwing 3 colonies or Britain throwing 13 colonies?
Yeah.
You know your eyeballs?
Huh?
You know your eyeballs?
What?
You know them?
Huh?
Your eyeballs?
What?
They're about to have some dirt in them.
What were you?
Like more dirt than you've ever had.
Ah! Not really. You're a funny guy, Marty.
I didn't leave the box of cookies in there. When I put them, and Mrs. Harden probably thinks I'm fired. And I go to my locker, I have cookies for it. And then I'm like, never mind it. Okay, let's go to the teacher's classroom. He's like, okay. I don't have to.
Hi, Meredith.
Post World War II. What? What? Underdeveloped. Need the cloud.
I know, somebody, I didn't even pay attention to it.
The teachers and Mrs. Harden's are probably.
Self-regulating.
Hey, where's my sign on me? What is that?
Max, right behind you, Josh. No, Max, check that. Max, right there.
So nice today.
You look pretty nice today.
You do.
Yo, seats and desist.
Can I get a down?
All right, I will.
Hi, Ally. Yeah.
You are.
Well, ladies and gentlemen, I know you're from great families who have taught you proper respect, and you have two adults speaking to one another, and now the bell just rang, so we're quiet.
Don't labor over it, just a quick impression or a note, as soon as possible.
Thank you. Did you find a home? How about right by me?
Okay.
Who's next to Carly back there? Norman.
Actually, I vote.
Isaiah?
The Federalist papers, I don't know, are we missing someone? Federalist papers?
No.
Why'd you put there? You could sit just sit back
Hey, before you leave, remember I took these and then you passed them back. I gave them to you to look at and then I took them back. Well, I still have them. So before you leave today, I'm gonna put them over here. So once we get done with the lesson, hopefully, and you have time to do homework, I'll give them back to you. Yeah.
How come the British won this war?
What?
Win.
Or no, the Americans won this war.
Because they left. Mexico really left.
Yeah. 16 ships.
I'm gonna talk to them.
Like you can see James Madison.
Yes, lightly. I think so. Yeah, we heard it was my brother outside, and I thought it was you. And then I thought about it.
Yeah.
And then I saw the
Mine is 14.
Is that yours?
Hey, I got 18. Really?
I thought I did bad, I got 55.
That's the highest grade I've
Gotta.
17 months.
Fill out.
Alright. Gotta get going because you have a test Friday. Matthew Bushley, your first pre-algebra test is this Friday because we are approaching the end of chapter 1. So what we're gonna do is we'll go over today's homework, we'll go over today's work, and then tomorrow we will do review part 1. I will not just kind of like end the lessons and then here's the test. We will review 2 days. You will have 2 full days, Matthew, that if there's any questions at all about any of the information that we've been given so far, you have ample opportunity to ask before Friday's test. So you've got to start taking responsibility, all of you, for if there's something you don't understand over the next 3 days, you got to start asking questions before Friday's test. Got it? Don't just sit there and be occupiers of a chair. Engage your minds. All right, here we go. Yesterday's homework. It was
Page 36.
36. 7 to 11. Okay, 14, 16, 17, 19, 20. First question is, because we've really lost time now with helping out with that other thing, is there anyone that did not finish their homework? You weren't here.
I didn't get one question.
You didn't get one done. Anybody else? Yes.
Yeah.
I didn't hear. Did you think I said you got one done?
Yeah.
Everyone else is done? Okay, here we go. Number 7. 22 centimeters is your perimeter, 24 square centimeters is your area. Number 8. 34 meters is your perimeter, 60 square meters is your area. Questions on 7 or 8? If you missed it, what are you supposed to be doing right now? Marking it. Now, here's the deal again. I've said this it's probably the 5th time already this year. If you missed it, and I said the right answer, and you really look at it, oh, I see what I did. That's the beautiful thing. If you didn't do that, and you seriously do it again, you still don't understand, then the beautiful thing is we get together and you figure it out. If you're smart enough, good enough, and by golly, you deserve it. All right.
I thought we deserved to die and be separated from the rest of our lives. Wow. I mean, really?
Number 9. Your perimeter is 40. One side of a square is 10. 4 times 10 is 40. Your area is 100 square feet because it's simply 10 times 10. Number 10. No picture for you. The length is 17. The width is 9. That tells you it's not a square, it's a rectangle. So, if I'm Nadia, and I want to find the perimeter of that rectangle, and I don't have a picture, but I can picture it in my head maybe, or I can draw a picture on the paper. 17 by 9. What's 17 plus 9? 26. I'm only halfway around. Times 2. Nadia got?
52.
52 meters. If I want to find area, that's so easy. Length times width. If I multiplied right, I got, Micah? 17 times 9? 153 square meters. Number
11.
11. Oh, trying to think, see if I skipped 11. The side length is 18. What's that tell you? That's all they gave you. It's a square. So if they've only given us one side, that means they're all the same. What's 4 times 18, Jacob?
24. Wait, what are you?
4 times 18.
Wait, what number is that?
We're on number 11.
Oh, 4 times 18?
Because the side of the square is 18, I'm finding the
Oh,
perimeter.
72.
72 inches.
Sorry, my
What's,
point.
what's the area? What's 18 squared, Jack? 324 square inches. Any questions so far? Yeah.
I times 18 4 times.
So you did 18 to the fourth power? Okay. No, that's not right. The hardest thing at the very beginning is to not confuse perimeter and area anymore, okay? So you did multiple confusions. You confused perimeter and area, so you were thinking power, right? And then you took, so this is why sometimes it's beneficial to draw a picture. Look, if I draw a picture, and I know that that side's 18, then I would never get to the point where my answer was like, it probably got to the millions.
Yeah, it was 104,070.
I thought it would be more than that.
Oh,
18
well, I
to the
probably
fourth.
multiplied it wrong.
So 18 plus 18 plus 18 plus 18 to get you around the outside of that square. So it's 18 times 4.
I really wouldn't feel what it
Number 14. Find the length of a side of a square that's an area of 36 square yards. Uh-oh. Now you gotta get a little deeper. Now do you really understand how to work with these formulas? Because now they're not giving you the length and width, they're actually giving you the area. And now it's your turn to, what did they say it was? The area is, it's a square?
36 square.
Okay, since it's a square, length and width are the same. So we take the side and we square it. Side times side, 18 squared for the area of the perimeter. So if they told us that the area was 36, in order to find out what S is, we got to do the square root of S. Whatever we do to one side of an equal sign, we must do to the other. What's the square root of S? S. Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
What's the square root of 36? 6. So the side of that square, if the square has an area of 36 square yards, then it's a 6 by 6. Did you catch that? If the area is 36, then this must be 6, and this must be 6. There's 36 squares inside there. Josh?
I just figured out something like this.
You had an aha moment.
Yeah, like a square root. Like when you square something, it's by itself, but the root of that square is the square. Wait, what? You get what I mean, though?
I think I get what you mean, and I'm glad that you just had that epiphany. Yes.
So if we're doing area, we only have to times
Length times width.
1.
Yeah. See, area seems more complicated because there's more to it inside there, but it's actually less complicated when it comes to computing. Yeah.
As a way to check yourself, will area always be larger than perimeter?
Whew. As a way to check yourself, will area always be larger than perimeter? Well, let's see. Let's test that. Let's say that my square is 4 feet long and 4 feet wide. What's my perimeter? 4 plus 4 times 2. What's my area? 16. So in that case, they're the same. Did you hear a question, will area always be larger than perimeter? What if my square was 2 by 2? What's my area? Only 4 square feet. What's my perimeter? 8. So no. Yeah,
In these things, you were supposed to find the area and the perimeter.
for number 14, it said find the side of the length of a square that has an area of 36. So they didn't ask for a
So it wasn't 9.
No, again, because here's what you did. You're confusing perimeter and area. You said, oh, okay, square, 36, that means each side's 9.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's perimeter.
Oh.
But, oh, okay, square. It's 36 squares in there. What's the root of 36? 6.
Wait, so like, but wouldn't that mean, wouldn't that mean 4 sides?
We're not talking sides when we're talking area. We're talking about everything in the side, within the sides. Perimeter's the boundary.
Okay, yeah, I know that.
Area is everything in that boundary. So we're not talking sides, we're talking
So
squares.
just squares.
Squares.
Inside the
I keep trying to draw squares to show you that that's why we call them square units, because we can't take the measurement of the room and say it's whatever feet around the perimeter and then order that many feet of tiles. We would only have 1 strip of tiles going around the room.
Yeah.
We'd only be covering around the border of the room. We need to fill in the whole area. So that would be all those squares filling it in. How do we find it? Beautiful formula. If it's a rectangle, we just take the length times the width. If it's a square, which is a rectangle, we know one side, we know the other. They're the same, side times side.
Okay, so, yeah, I think I did.
Number 16, right? 14, 16, 19? Anybody give me an affirmation? 14, 16, 17, 19. Okay, 16, let's do some mental math. Ready, Max?
Yes.
Josh?
Yep.
The area of a rectangle is 88 square inches. The width is 8 inches. Use mental math to find the length of the rectangle. Woo!
What page are we on?
36. You follow me? The area is 88, the width is 8.
Wait. 11.
11. Because the area is the length times the width. So if the area is 88 and you have one of the dimensions is 8, 8 times something gives you 88. Remember, the area formula is length times width. You picking this up, Matthew? You weren't here yesterday? Did you watch the video?
I didn't see a video.
Did you go in classroom?
No, I only went on Redweb.
By a quick show of hands, if you've been on Google Classroom once in the last week, raise your hand, don't lie. I don't believe that many have, but okay. So it's a little more than half of you.
Wait, not your class.
No, I'm pre-algebra.
Wow.
I didn't even know there was.
Now, you haven't needed to look at pre-algebra because if you haven't been absent, then there's no video posted in class. But Matthew, I'm just saying, and anybody else that misses, that I tried to make sure, and Kaylee same way, that there should be at least 3 videos on there from the last week or so that you missed.
I tried to look.
I don't think the videos are right now. Yeah.
Usually I don't like go in there and see it because it gets sent to my Gmail, so I can go on my Gmail and the video's already there.
Yeah, that's what mine is.
All right, moving on, number 17. The distance formula is distance equals rate times time. That's the formula. Want to go up, know how far someone's gone? Find out how fast they're going and how long it took them to get there. Does that make sense? Hello?
Yes.
Want to know how far someone's gone? Find out how fast they're moving and how long it took to get there, and you can figure out how far they've gone, right?
Per hour.
Now we can take this formula and we can manipulate it by using those simple algebraic axioms or those simple rules of algebra. You can add, subtract, multiply, or divide to undo what they've done to a variable, as long as you do the same thing to both sides. So if I wanted to get r by itself, I would divide this side by t and that side by t. And I would get r equals d over t. If I wanted to get t by itself, I would divide this side by r and that side by r. So t equals d divided by r. Those are all different ways of saying the same formula. You want to find distance, boom, there it is. If you want to manipulate that and find how fast they're going, then find out how far they went and divide it by how long it took them to get there. Think about it. If you want to know how long it took them to get there, divide how far they went by how fast they were going. Same formula, 3 different ways to use it. Make sense? Which one are they asking us to use in number 17, is it? Which one are they asking us to use in 17? Are we trying to find distance, rate, or time? Maddie?
Rate.
Okay, trying to find rate. Now, we can't find rate unless they give us the distance and the time. Did they give us the distance? What was it? 36 kilometers. And did they give us how long it took?
4 hours.
4 hours. That's awful handling. So if it took 36, if I went 36 kilometers and it took me 4 hours, how fast was I going? What was my average speed? What's 36 divided by 4? 9. And the unit is kilometers per hour. That's the answer to number 17.
Mr. Franken?
Question? What?
Mr. Franken, why are you using kilometers if this is America?
Because every other country is kilometers, man.
Because I told you this before about the greatness of America is we got our own system, and then we also learn the metric system. All those other countries, all they got to do is learn the easy metric system. We get to learn the English system, the old English system.
Wait, so it was originally England system?
Our system?
Yeah.
Yes.
So we technically stole it from the British, which in fact,
Well, they
country.
put
Well, we didn't
So it-
steal it from them, we brought it.
But we are.
Our heritage is English.
Yeah, so technically, this is a European way of doing it. It's just not.
But it's a metric.
Okay. Metric, you could call it European because it was they came up with it in France, but it's not, it's just modern.
No, hold up.
Metric is both modern and easier to work with.
Yeah, but our system is technically European.
Okay, number 19. I think that was the next one, 19. Okay. They've given you the R and they've given you the T, so we just need to find the D. We get to use the original formula. What's the rate times the time? What is 7 times 1.5? 10.5, 10.5. You have traveled 10.5 miles if you have gone 7 miles an hour for an hour and a half. So if you're out there and you're a speed walker, you know, some people just go for a walk and they're walking about 3 miles per hour. But then some people, they're like, they want to get more out of it. So they're speed walking and they're walking like 7 miles. So they'd have to walk for an hour and a half and do it 10.5 miles. Could you keep up that pace for an hour and a half?
No.
No. If you could walk from here to my house in almost an hour and a half.
No, that's 7.5 miles.
Oh, 5 minutes.
I'm 9 miles, so it's 10. You could walk into the center of Salem. If you walked 7 miles per hour for an hour and a half.
I didn't know, I thought you meant to.
Sounds like fun.
Yeah.
All right, number 23. Your job is to figure out number 23, and in 45 seconds, I'll do it on the board. Page 36, number 23.
I don't even know my book of it.
That's under control.
Page 33 or 23?
It's number 23
Page 33.
on page
Page
36.
36.
That's what it said. Why do you have to say about it?
Shh, you're down to 20 seconds. Yogi, you're done already?
No, I'm not.
Number 23? I'm not answering questions about it
Yeah.
for another 15 seconds.
Can you like slow down?
I'll give you an extension of 20 seconds. Obviously, we're using the distance formula that I just erased. Remember it? Woo, woo.
Yay. Beep. Turn.
That was good.
Oh yeah, Gladys Knight.
All right, there's the distance formula, except, didn't they already give us the distance?
Yeah, they already gave us the distance.
The distance is 225 miles. Is it 226?
Yeah.
The distance is 226 miles. What's the rate? Did they give us the speed?
You're trying to get the rate.
Ooh, they gave us the time then? Please tell me they gave us the time.
Yeah, they did.
They have to, or we can't figure out the rate. So what'd they give us for time?
2 hours.
What?
2 hours and 30 minutes.
2 hours and 30 minutes? How can I express that as a rational number? 2 hours and 30 minutes. Jack,
2.5 or 1.5. Oh.
2 hours and 30 minutes is 2.5 hours.
Yeah, you're too smart.
So I'm gonna multiply that by 2.5 hours. Now wait, that doesn't help me, so that helps me, but how do I get R by itself? Christian?
By both the distance and the time by 2.5.
If I divide 2.5 by 2.5, what is that?
1.
What's R times 1?
1.
1 R,
R.
right?
Yeah.
R times 1 is just 1 R.
Oh.
That's beautiful. That's what I wanted. I wanted R by itself. If I multiplied this, or if I divided this side by 2.5, what must I do over here?
Divide that side by.
So what is 226 divided by 2.5? You remember how to do that?
Yeah.
Whoop! Whoop!
Oh,
I had to move the decimal point 1 here, so I got to move it 1 in there. How many times does 25 go into 22? It doesn't. How many times does it go into 226?
9. I'm doing it.
How many times 25 go into 10?
0.
Decimal point straight up. How many times 25 go into 100?
4.
They want me to round it to the nearest mile per hour. Is it going to be 90 or 91? 90 miles per hour. Yeah.
I'm gonna try setting it up with like instead of doing it like that, I tried to change it to like rate.
Okay.
Time.
So I got rate equals 226 divided by 2.5.
Does that work still?
It's the same thing. That's how we ended up.
Mr. Franken, how'd you get so good at this?
I'm not.
You are.
I'm still work in progress.
What?
All right,
He just
you guys, you got that?
Yes.
Turn the page.
Oh.
Now we're running out of
That
time.
was good.
If you'll notice, 1.7, if you go ahead a few pages, 1.7 is the last lesson in chapter 1. So then we're gonna do a review, you know the thing you tore out, and handed in last week? We have another one of those tomorrow.
Yay.
That's our beginning of our review. We're gonna review all day tomorrow and Thursday, so Kingston is ready to ace the test on Friday. All right, what did we say a week ago? I gave you a short little sermonette on people complain, we're never gonna have to use algebra when we in the real world out there.
Yes.
Algebra, what's the value of algebra in case you don't have a job in the future, where you don't actually use algebraic formulas?
A lot.
Is you are building your repertoire of knowledge and experience in solving problems. The world needs problem solvers, and in order to solve a problem correctly, haste makes waste, you need to have a plan. Okay? Sometimes you can accidentally get the right answer without slowing down and having a plan, but most of the time, you try to take shortcuts, it doesn't work.
You are right.
Haste makes waste, so let's see what they want us to do here with a problem-solving plan. We're gonna jump right to the bottom of page 39. I just skipped over 2 pages of text, and we're going right to the bottom of page 39 to review what they're saying. First thing, number 1, when you have a problem in front of you, the first step is to do this. It's kind of like the scientific method that you learned in science, right? Remember the scientific method? Identify the problem, right? Then you have a hypothesis. Then you gotta get your materials. You do research. You do an experiment.
You know what's that?
There you go. Well, this is kind of like that. I got a problem. Number 1, I want to make sure I read the problem. Here's the problem. Right out of the gate. You know what the problem for most students that say they don't get it is?
You don't know the problem.
They don't even try. Because you know what the first word says? Read. It says, read the problem carefully. I don't want it. This is math class. Am I not supposed to just be doing numbers and stuff?
It says read and understand.
Yeah, but they don't even want to read it. Like, you see it. There's some kids, they see a story problem, this is what they do. They turn off before they even read it. Megan's like, yeah, that used to be me.
That is me.
Read the problem carefully. Identify the question and any important information. So read it first and then go right to the question. Usually it's at the end. What are they asking for? If we go back to number 23 that we just did together, right? You read all that information in 23 and it says, it's a whole paragraph seems like. A train travels 226 miles. Who cares about where it's going? We're trying to solve the math part of the problem, right? So we read it and then we hone in on, oh, they want to know the speed. That means they want to know the rate. So I'm going to write rate equals distance over time, right? Read and understand the problem, ask what they're looking for. Number 2, make a plan. Last week, we went through problem-solving strategies together. The first one was simply guess. Take an educated guess, check your answer. You'll probably be close. Adjust it up or down, right? So come up with a plan. 3, then use that strategy to solve the problem. And 4, check your answer. Yeah.
Okay. Never mind, I'll ask you.
Turn to page 40. There's a phrase in green print at the top of page 40. Unit analysis. What they mean by that is to, you know how we use the term miles per hour?
Yeah.
Okay, that's considered a unit analysis. We want to know, we want to take it, how much would it be in 1 hour? See, units mean, break it down to how many per foot or how many per hour. Does that make sense?
Yes.
Or how many per ounce? Whatever label you're using, you want to get it down to 1. 90 miles per 1 hour. That's called units. Make sense? 1 unit. It says at the top, you can do a unit analysis to evaluate expressions with units of measure, check your answers, or uses the correct units as well. All right, what can we do together here? I'm down to 5 minutes.
Oh, wow. What if we try to make your own story problems?
Yeah.
All right, for now though, today you're gonna give your best effort on 4 through 8, page 41. Just 5 problems, 4 through 8, page 41, 5 problems, and someone out there's like, 4 through 8, Mr. Frank, isn't that 4 problems? No, 5.
Wait, hold up now.
Wait, 4, 5, 6,
Four.
7, 8.
Wait,
That's a lie.
wait,
You
it's
said 4, 5,
It's not that easy.
Mine's
Mr. Frankie!
4 through 8, you got 5 problems.
4 plus
On page
4 is
41.
8. And there is 5 problems we have.
What?
Math people.
That
Isn't it
is
amazing?
You already have go back to
Mr. Frankie, how many
You already have the
Okay.
four.
Is this
Say
the
your
fourth dimension?
Let me tell you how, no, let me,
Math,
this is,
go back.
let me tell you how it works, right? Count to 4.
1, 2, 3.
Did you say 0?
Wait, 0. 1, 2, 3, 4. It's the fourth dimension, Mr. Frankie.
So 4 through 8, you're counting
There's
to
no
4. When you count to 4, you don't go 0, 1, 4. But when you count 4 through 8, you do start at 4.
Mr.
5,
Frankie,
6, 7, 8.
you said some of this stuff wasn't gonna be magic.
There's no
You're down to 4 minutes.
Is that our homework?
That's it, Liam. Any questions you got, let me know.
Four, you're 6.
4 through 8.
We wanna keep it.
You got study hall, you can come ask.
What?
Our study hall is third period.
Yeah, do you have a cluster?
He does. I tried to talk to me one day and I looked at it. I came in today looking for my cookies.
Do you have a class?
They were trying to ask me, like, can we
I have lunch.
Yeah, that's a good class.
That is.
Sometimes I get to eat lunch, most times I don't.
What, Mr. Frankie?
Busy,
What would your wife say?
Busy. Yeah, she gets upset.
No.
Guess what, Mr. Rankin?
Corey, when's your next meeting? You guys ever run to Salem?
No.
Usually you run once a year in Salem, because I try to make it there.
No, go ahead.
Honestly, I never ran cross country.
Why not?
And I never really thought about it, like, my kids weren't in it, but I think it's one of the most fascinating things to go watch.
Why?
I think it's because,
It's running.
I know, but to see, and when you go, you know, you've got your kids that are just like so incredibly blessed and gifted that they're like winning, right? But to me, the awesome thing about watching these kids run cross country is not the winners. That's the least interesting thing to me. It's watching kids that know that they're not gonna win, yet they give everything they have, and watching them, I especially like to watch close to the finish line, because they've given it all they got, they're dead tired, and they're not gonna win the race, but what you're doing every time you run cross country, you're not running against other people. It's you challenging yourself. So you're trying to get your best performance, you're trying to be better this run than the last run. And it's just awesome to watch. Like, I mean, I've seen kids that like, they know already that they're not like gonna be an elite runner. But it's not about that. It's about challenging yourself and getting faster than last time. Whatever your time was last time, be faster this time. Even if you're in last place, it doesn't even matter. You're beating yourselves what you were last time. It's awesome.
Bad
We're on lunch.
Quiet, people
So like, I read on, Visa driver today, it was like a no,
Like,
and I said, you know, Mr. Pants is going to bed, and he said, yeah, sure. So I bet for my lunch sandwich on lunch, and I was packing extra, so I give him my sandwich.
Wait, what?
I doubt he's gonna take it.
No, he like, he's.
Seriously, I
Used
love
to
that.
This is because I have a high school student that likes to, he's really likes to debate me and stuff, and he loves talking sports.
I would like to.
So after the first game of the year, he was gaga like the Texans, and I said, okay, here's my prediction. The Texans won their first game of the year really easily. They're gonna win 4 games all year. And he debates that. And then the Packers, if you remember, they got killed the first game, 38-3 or something crazy, right? And I said, you know what? Guess what? They're still gonna win 11 games. And they won yesterday pretty easily.
So you're a Packers fan?
It's just, listen, the NFL, if you're in the NFL, you are a world-class athlete. You're one of the fastest, strongest people in the world.
Yeah.
So those teams are they're almost all evenly matched. Now, there's some players like Tom Brady that stand out.
Yeah, he's like, you know,
Anybody can beat anybody any day.
I'm gonna be a little.
Madison with Jefferson.
Yeah.
President's Congress. Madison with Jefferson.
Yo.
Like he was the kid, like,
Yeah.
hey, Jefferson's our guy, he's like, that's his terms. Madison's his guy.
Mr. Franklin, what happened to the couch?
He did not down there.
In 5th grade, what happened to it? Is it down there? Why did you take it?
It's not his, it's just the room.
Oh, it's.
You know what'd be a good prank? You know what'd be a good prank? What?
That's not a friend stealing.
That's literally child labor and stealing. I'm with it, I'm with it.
Yeah, I'm down. You want to steal it? Let's do it.
You can go ahead.
You're like,
No, because I was
it's like, okay.
My mom looked at my face and yelled at me.
Mr. Franklin,
Could I?
more about Mr.
Are you giving us permission to take the couch?
And one of these days, then you can go to lunch.
Is that what you're saying? We're
No.
drop you.
Okay, we will. We're gonna muscle.
Mr. Franklin, so you know the radio gets yeah, did you?
Well, what was crazy was Burr and Jefferson were on the same.
I can tell.
Yes.
Wait,
It
no.
was Adams, listen, Adams was the Federalist.
Yeah.
And you had Jefferson and Burr.
Oh, yeah, no, the only reason
And it was before the 12th Amendment, so
Let's talk about it.
it made it so that when you look at the president, before that,
You know,
before
Jefferson,
that,
made-
whoever got the most land first.
yeah, the second was, yeah, Jefferson, or what's it called? Jefferson made it.
Which people?
And then others.
So you make the evidence.
Why did these not come out? US, right? What's up? Same dog bit you? No, you're. What are you taking? Somebody took.
I understand either way, but only if the situation calls.
This is a guy, I'd be really proud of it. Those girls,
Yeah, but like, she's your sister.
True.
Yeah.
They lost a doubleheader. The Royals. Don't be a fair winner.
I'm just saying.
You missed.
I might go to the game. I might go to the game this weekend. I like the experience.
Yeah, and me and Luke teach together for
Wait, you guys are actually playing basketball?
Softball.
Yeah, they're making a party.
No, I didn't play basketball.
Anna, you got it.
I actually can't. Oh, look at this.
Abby's gonna play.
Oh, what you
softball,
make?
right?
What you making?
It was like 11:30.
Yeah, I'm going to bed at 10.
Very like upper body.
I'm sure you'll be.
You keep saying, I've never seen you run. I've never seen you run.
I'm fast. I'm the fastest sprinter on the team.
This is all.
Luke's playing baseball.
Dude, just put this on. We're keeping you coach. We're all gonna do speed.
It's a fun game.
We don't have a
walk-up ball.
I mean, I used to have a pony back at the pony.
And it was amazing.
Yeah, that was the most insane place ever.
I don't know how likely that is to happen.
And it's gonna be sick.
It's gonna be sick. Mine's gonna be Love Story by Taylor Swift.
Yeah, that's the
Yeah.
worst that I've ever.
I already know what my walk-up song is. Freestyle by Lil Baby. It's so fire.
Where did I put my test? I can make.
But it's probably not Harlem Pro.
No. Love Story, but those are hard.
I'm not gonna go that, yeah.
Okay, George, get this. I am the most elite pinch runner of all. Basically, somebody gets hit. I
Luke,
hit.
all you have to
I
Luke probably hit 400 on our team.
No,
because you're
like a
fast.
pro. I was a pro runner back in the day. Jim, my acceleration.
My goal this year is to hit like 650.
650. I can bat 750 with one arm and my eyes closed.
You know what I wanna see?
Yeah, what are means?
I wanna see Gio on the base paths.
What?
What's the
I wanna see Gio on the base
Do you really
paths.
have to be left?
Who's on the team, first of all?
I mean, yeah, it's a lot easier. Like Drew,
Like,
Drew's left hand.
all of them?
Sophia, you're not gonna be on.
Everybody is playing
That right now.
softball.
Are you
Seriously?
really?
Yes.
That's amazing.
Oh.
Most my whole team is playing.
That's so great.
Me and Sophia are playing softball.
Let's go.
It's a right
And
arm.
what would you say your skill set
What?
is?
No, she's gonna be a
It's a weight
close.
sport.
I wanna know who your pitcher's gonna be.
Oh,
Track, basketball, lacrosse.
You could do cheer and be like a
Basketball?
quintuple.
Yeah, she is. No.
Wait, if you do cheer, then you can be a quintuple sport athlete.
I can't. I can't go. I can't do basketball cheering.
Where did I put my
Yeah, I don't think you're gonna be able to get a job.
Ladies, we need to figure out who the pitcher is. They have to train all.
You're not gonna be able to go home till 6 every
What
day.
did you hear?
We have to figure out who's gonna be the pitcher on this team. They have to start.
Lexi Rice.
Is Emma playing? I feel like she'd be good.
No,
She would be good.
she would be good.
Yeah.
Emma can't take any more physical stress.
Unless you just wanna work on the weekends.
Oh,
Why do you have to tell Anna she can't have a job if she plays basketball? I mean, his sister has 3 jobs if you think basketball.
What? How is that even possible? Did she even show up at practice?
No, I don't know. She did a lot though. So Anna can do it.
what you're working on, she's playing after?
I think she.
She was working at Taco Bell like till midnight.
Just isn't gonna work.
Drew, how do you feel about our first open gym, like open gym, I'm going Wednesday? That's tomorrow. That's gonna be a lot.
Coach Scott's actually gonna be there.
Coach Scott is gonna be there, not just bring the fight.
What are they gonna do? You got, so let's say they get back and fast break don't work, and now the secondary break, you got Drew coming down the lane.
And
You got Sam spot up for 3.
Go to
You do an
me.
alley oop to Drew and Drew dunks on us. Yeah. Or,
I'm more excited for baseball than basketball.
that is the most disgusting statement I've ever heard in my life.
Luke, you just.
I hope your tires are flat when you walk out to your car.
Wow, Luke.
Because, you know what I'm gonna do? I'm gonna slash 3 of them.
I'm gonna start going to a
Slash
pitching.
4.
I'm gonna start going to a pitching coach. And I'm just
Pitching
gonna.
coach, you know,
I'm gonna be ripping that curve.
and you know what I'm gonna do? I'm gonna walk up to your pitch.
I forgot to end
This whole thing was live? I'm gonna watch the whole thing.
Unbelievable.
I gotta